Welcome back. On this clip I'm finally getting around to installing the fuel lines. So the fuel tank is out, as you can see, and this is the stock fuel pump assembly with the factory fuel pump still in it. We haven't upgraded that yet. The grey and black lines are power and the purple wires are for the fuel level sender unit, so we want to keep all these wires in it. But to remove this little unit from the tank, obviously we've had to drop the tank out of the ute again, and then it's just held in by some rusty screws and a little collar that bolts onto the plastic. So out of the 3 pipes here on top of the fuel pump unit, the right one will be the outlet, the middle one is going to be the breather, and the last one on the left is going to be our return line. So the line we have here is an AN8 inlet, so it's 10.9mm wide, and it's too large to slip onto the factory little plastic tube. So the original plan was to clamp this hose directly onto the stock unit because we're trying to do as little labour as possible. The sender line is much too thin for the AN8 line, so we're just going to drill it out and use the fittings we purchased to convert it to an AN fitting. This is the AN conversion fitting for the tank that I showed in the unboxing video, and we're going to see if we can convert this output line to this AN8 fitting. Here we've drilled a hole and removed the original plastic line, so the AN conversion fitting will slip into this and clamp onto the top of the fuel pump, like so. So this unit will be Loctited. The good thing about this is that that factory plastic pickup hose slips perfectly onto the conversion fitting, like it's the perfect diameter, so I'll show you that in a second. Got the fuel pump assembly back in, and we're still using the factory line for the return and the factory line for the breather, and over here we have the stainless steel insert bulb so we can use the PTFE line over the top of it. The PTFE lines are going to go to the PTFE fittings on the return for the fuel pressure regulator. We'll also be leaving the braided line coiled up as it will be measured and cut once the tank is back in the car, just so we can have an accurate measurement. So the next thing to do is put the AN fittings on the PTFE lines. And then we're going to tighten them boys down with our man hands. Since all the lines are prepared, it's time to put the fuel tank back in position and then get the measurements for the lines. So unfortunately we have to maneuver the diff again because the fuel tank needs an extra 10 centimeters of wiggle room to actually sit up underneath the tub. So putting the tank in with this coiled up braided PTFE line actually proved to add another level of challenge, but we still got it done anyway. So here just measuring how much line was needed and cut off, and then connecting the fuel pressure regulator to the tank. So while the location of the fuel pressure regulator and the fuel filter were being decided at the rear of the car, at the front of the car we were putting the breather fittings into the rocker cover. So these are 2 AN8 fittings, and we've got one that's going to sit at the rear of the rocker cover and then one that sits closer up, kind of like a third down on the right hand side. From here we'll have the lines running toward the firewall and then into a catch can, but we still haven't decided where we're mounting the catch can, so there's not going to be lines put in this video at the moment. Here again we're using the AN8 PTFE line and a push lock fitting this time, so it's a right and good push lock fitting. This one's going to come out of the fuel rail and connect onto the hard line with some fittings later on. But we're just doing this so we can figure out the length required to drop it down the back of the firewall and the block and then have it mate up with the hard line, because you don't want it too short. we've bent new hardline to match the direction as close as possible of the OEM LPG hardline so it can mount in the same factory locations. This line will come from the fuel filter, run up to the front of the car, and then connect to the soft line you just saw me fitting. Underneath the car you can see here that we've got the hard line, and the hard line's meeting up to that soft line that you saw, and the soft line goes directly into the fuel rail, so the importance of this soft line is to allow for engine movement. Going back towards the tray, you can see that we've bent the hard line to match the original direction of the LPG line. So this goes directly into the fuel filter, and then into the fuel pressure regulator, and then into the tank. Little RS3 brake time. But yeah, we have the whole fuel assembly basically set up, but there is a few things that we still need to set up, being the catch can and the breather lines. We still need hardware and gaskets for the intake and the exhaust, and a barbed fitting for the vacuum line for the brake booster, and then we also need coil packs or to try and make the coil packs work. So this engine has BF coil packs, not the FG coil packs, but we have the FG loom, so we need coil packs to suit that. And then we have a little sneak peek of the colour the car might be getting wrapped. A little circle. This isn't really necessary, but we want to get the car started and just turning over to make sure that everything is working and the fuel pump and everything on that end is correct. So these are little jumper harnesses. It's using the standard BF harness that you get on the LPG FG ute, and then a generic 2-pin output which has the end shaved off. So I'll show you what it would look like with my man hands. One-handed filming, it would originally look like this, with just the pins slightly poking out. So this side here goes into the FG harness, which we need to use for the FG ECU, and it basically converts it from the FG connector to the BF coil plugs and coils. So we're doing this because obviously the FG coils have a different plug, which matches the harness that we currently have on the car, but they don't fit up with the BF rocker cover that's on the car. So these are the standard plugs off the standard harness. We just cut them off, made them to the correct length, and put the pins on the other end. Then they go into the casing and some heat shrink over the top, and then they will work. Hopefully these will do what we need until we sort out a long-term solid solution. So the reason for this is a new rocker cover is around $600 and a second hand is $250, so it's not worth it when these were just lying around the house, and the whole point of this build is to just budget as much as we can to get it running. Here we've got the thick wire, so that's 12 volts or the power wire, and then on the left we've got the skinny wire, which is your trigger wire. But yeah, so all these are done. They're all different lengths because of which position they go, but we'll hook them up and see if the car will run. Exciting. So out of these 4 shafts, only one of them is the right fit for the build. You get some free worn socks whoever gets it right. Not really.